Hey everyone, Evan Jones with you here on the RPAC Rundown podcast. This week on the pod, we will go through the featured matchups from last week. We had Medicine Valley versus Maxwell volleyball, Cambridge versus Arapahoe volleyball, and then Cambridge versus Arapahoe football. Also, we will go through the weekly football scoreboard brought to you by MNB Realty. After that, we will chat with Kinsey. She will join us to talk about cross country for the RPAC. We're early on, but we wanted to visit about it so far this season. And then finally, we have Athletes of the Week brought to you by First Central Bank. Be sure to check out rpacrundown.com and social media for all kinds of great content. The RPAC Rundown podcast is brought to you by a bunch of great sponsors like Arapahoe Rehab and Fitness, Cambridge Supermarket, Webb's Oilfield Service, Cambridge Rehab and Fitness, Onyx Native, and C+. We'll take a break. Be right back. It's time to take a look at our weekly football scoreboard brought to you by MNB Realty. So let's take a look at those scores. In week 1, Ravenna beat Alma 64-26. Cambridge took down Arapahoe 68-16. Bertrand won a narrow one against Kennesaw 30-26. Dundee County Stratton beat Perkins County 46-16. Acadia Loop City beat Highline 30-14. Hitchcock County took care of business and beat Brady 54-6. Maxwell took down Sutherland 44-28. Wilcox-Hildreth beat Maywood Hayes Center 60-12. Medicine Valley, they had a bye for their varsity squad. Hayes Springs beat Paxton 46-21. Franklin took down Southern Valley 60-34. Southwest had a bye for their varsity also. Wallace took down Arthur County in a thriller, 44-36. And then finally, Juanita Palisade took down South Platte, 44-28. Once again, our football scoreboard is brought to you by MNB Realty. We'll take a break, be right back. You're listening to the RPAC Rundown Podcast. Now it's time to go through our featured matchups from last week. Last Thursday, we caught our first volleyball match of the season at Medicine Valley as they hosted Maxwell. Maxwell won via the sweep, and the set scores were 25-14, 25-14, and 25-18. Unofficially for Medicine Valley, Oakley Stout led the team with 4 kills. The team had 4 aces as well. Unofficially for Maxwell, Kristen Cheek had 12 kills, Emery Christensen had 6 kills, and Rylan Quick had 3 kills. The team posted 9 aces. This RPAC Rundown featured matchup was brought to you by Scouts Recreation. Then on Friday, we had more volleyball action as it was another RPAC matchup between Cambridge and Arapahoe. Cambridge won by the sweep 25-12, 25-19, and 25-10. Brooklyn Holtz had 19 kills for Cambridge. Mallory Springer and Elizabeth Kubik each had 8. Springer had 18 assists too. For Arapahoe, Emma Strand, Tatum Roskop, Sydney Carlson, and Clara Hilker each had 3 kills. Sutton Schaefer had 10 digs. Sawyer Schaefer and Grace Andrews each had 6 assists. This RPAC Rundown featured matchup was brought to you by Waypoint Bank in Cambridge, Red Roof Farms, MNB Realty, D&D Service, Webb's Oilfield Service, Hometown Agency, Onyx Native, Scouts Recreation, Cambridge Rehab and Fitness, Arapahoe Rehab and Fitness, and Medicine Creek Family Dentistry. We'll take a break and then discuss our football featured matchup between Cambridge and Arapahoe on Friday night. Arapahoe played host to Cambridge on Friday night in week 1 of the football season. The Trojans secured a big victory, 68-16. The Trojans had a massive game on the ground, totaling 383 yards rushing. For Arapahoe, they had 33 yards passing coming from Briggs Hill and 138 yards rushing on 36 attempts. Hayden Seach had 59 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Hill had 29 yards rushing for Arapahoe too. Seach had 72 yards on kick returns. On defense, Hill had 12 tackles to lead Arapahoe. Wrigley McDonald had 4 tackles and an interception. For Cambridge, they had 84 yards passing, 383 yards rushing on 35 attempts. which is pretty solid, 10.9 yards per carry. Micah Gerlach was 4 for 7 passing with 84 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Rushing totals for Cambridge: Brady Allmeyer had 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. Gerlach had 84 yards and a score. Creighton Ruggles had 71 yards. Braden Miller had 56 yards and a touchdown. Braxton Mitchell had 54 yards and a score. Also for Cambridge, receiving, Hodge Rayburn caught 2 passes for 60 yards and a touchdown. Brady Allmeyer had 1 catch for 24 yards and a score. Allmeyer had 84 yards from kickoff and punt returns too. On defense, Braden Miller, we mentioned him earlier, having a nice rushing game. He had 12 tackles and 2 sacks. Colton Perks had 9 tackles and a sack. Gerlach had 10 tackles and 2 sacks. Allmeyer had 7 tackles. Miles Stanton had 7. Sean Pauley, he had 7 tackles, and Ben Harris added 5 tackles. Creighton Ruggles had an interception, and Connor Long had a fumble recovery. This RPAC Rundown featured matchup was brought to you by Waypoint Bank, Hometown Agency, D&D Service, Elevate Wellness, providing physical therapy and a large range of holistic health services to the entire Southwest Nebraska region. Corn-Fed Entertainment, Levi Watson and Zach Kerner, Dundee County Hospital and Quality Health Care, MNB Realty, Webb's Oilfield Service, Arapahoe Rehab and Fitness, Cambridge Rehab and Fitness, Onyx Native, Medicine Creek Family Dentistry, and Red Roof Farms. Let's take a break and chat about what we have seen early on in the cross-country season. You're listening to the RPAC Rundown Podcast. Now joining us on the podcast is Mackenzie Jones. We will talk early season of cross-country. You attended the Medicine Valley invite. We have our weekly cross-country results blog up on the website. So we'll talk about a handful of things, but first, you noticed a lot of underclassmen having success in the first week. So what did you all see, Kinsey?
Yeah, so both of the meets that were going on were smaller meets, but the underclassmen made a big impact, specifically at the Medicine Valley invite where I was at. Cade Hayes from Bertrand Loomis, he's a sophomore. He came in second behind Cale Garrett. In those middle portions of the race, he was right on Cale's heels, and so it was really fun to kind of watch those two. Cale ended up kind of pulling away from Cade, but Cade ran a really smart race. Also at the Medicine Valley invite, Bryson Shriver, a sophomore from Alma, he snagged a medal, and freshman Diego Rodriguez from Bertrand Loomis also was one of the top 15, ran a really good race for having no cross-country experience. And then on the girls' side at Medicine Valley, Aisha Neal, a freshman, she ran an incredible race. It was really smart. She kind of took the first little bit of the race to kind of get her bearings, figuring out the high school race, because in junior high, I think they just run a mile. So this was her first time racing a high school meet at the 3-mile mark. And she ran a really smart race. She just kept chipping away. And then towards the last mile-ish or so, she just kind of got herself in position and then made her move towards the last little bit of the race and ended up winning that meet with a time of 21:51.2. So she ran really well. And then also Isla Gosnell of Maxwell ran really well. She's going to be fun to watch again this season. And then freshman Addison Lozo from Southern Valley, she ran a really good race too. She snuck a medal in there. And there's going to be some learning that she will figure out too, because she went out pretty quick. And so kind of figuring out her magic pace will be fun to watch. And then, at Dundee County, that was a 2-mile race. And so it'll be fun to watch those guys get into their groove and like add an extra mile in there. And so there was a handful of freshmen and sophomores from that race that did really well. So it'll be fun to watch them race at that 3-mile mark.
Now, there's also opportunity for some strong teams in the conference. Tell us more about that. We talked about a lot of individuals, but what about some teams that could make some noise this year in the RPAC?
Yeah, it was honestly really fun at the Medicine Valley invite to watch the Bertrand Loomis boys. They graduated 5 of their 6 varsity runners. Their only returning varsity runner from last season is Cade Hayes. He was their number 2 runner last year, so this year he's going to move into that top spot and kind of help lead them. but they gained Jonah Fisher, Diego Rodriguez, and Matthew Millers, who are all brand new to cross country. And most of them did not condition much over the summer. And so it'll be fun to kind of watch them actually get conditioned, because they ran phenomenal at Medicine Valley. And so it'll be fun to kind of watch them actually get some conditioning under their belt. But they do have some returning state experience other than Cade Hayes. Isaac Hernandez is going to fill that fifth runner spot. He ran at the state meet as a freshman. And so they're going to kind of have some experience there, which will be fun to kind of watch them grow. So yeah, that will be fun. Alma is going to be a really salty team too for the boys specifically. They're young. I think they've got one senior on their varsity roster right now, but they are going to be really, really fun to watch. And they run in a pack. They were like 3, 4, 5, 6, like boom, they're together. So they're going to be tough to beat, especially if they keep running in a pack like that. And girl-wise, it's still pretty early based on these other meets because they were kind of small. But Cambridge has a really young team for girls. That'll be fun to watch them grow. And then if there's a couple others teams that might sneak in there, it'll be fun to watch them all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for the girls, you said primarily Cambridge on the girls' side. Is there anyone else on the girls' side that could potentially stand out?
Yeah, I think so. Maxwell could have a good team as well. They run pretty close together. And then there are a couple others. Hold on, let me look here. Okay. Southern Valley, they're just extremely, extremely young. They've got a lot of good kids out, you can tell. It's just them learning the race and learning it. They got Haley Serpentine. She switched over from volleyball this year and she medaled at Medicine Valley. So it'll be fun to watch her kind of get herself figured out as well. And then, like we mentioned earlier, Addison Lozo ran a really great race. So it's kind of as they get their bearings and get it figured out and how to tactically run their races and their strategies change a little bit, they'll be fun to watch too.
Yeah. Final thing, Juanita Palisade. They have a program now for cross country. How exciting is that for them?
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. We were so excited to hear about that at the RPAC coaches meeting day in August. They've got 3 kids out. They've got Annalie Ramirez, who's a sophomore, Sarah Barrera, who's a junior, and then Evan Briner, who is a sophomore as well. They're coached by Alex Bauer. They're going to be so much fun to watch. They had success on the track at the distances this last spring. So it was really a fun thing to see them announce that they were going to have a cross country team. And then just them as a whole learning the sport together, having success. So they're already finding success early. So it'll be fun to watch them grow as a team and learning the sport and then having them around at all of the meets that we're at this fall.
Yeah, very exciting, very exciting. Well, thanks for the time, Kinsey, and thanks for keeping us up to date what's going on with cross country, okay?
You bet.
We'll take a break, and then it's time to announce Athletes of the Week, brought to you by First Central Bank. We'll be right back for that. Welcome back. It's time to announce the RPAC Rundown Athletes of the Week, brought to you by First Central Bank, member FDIC. Our female athlete of the week goes to Aisha Neal of Alma. She took first at the Medicine Valley Invite with a time of 21 minutes, 51.2 seconds. Our male athlete of the week goes to Creighton Weiss of Juanita Palisade. He had 237 yards rushing on 23 carries, 6 touchdowns on the ground, an interception, and 9 tackles in the Broncos' 44-28 win over South Platte. Once again, our Athlete of the Week awards are brought to you by First Central Bank. Let's plan for tomorrow together. First Central Bank, member FDIC. That will do it for this week's episode of the podcast. Of course, the podcast is brought to you by a bunch of great sponsors like JBK Operating LLC, Scouts Recreation, First Central Bank, Cross Diamond Cattle Company, Tri-Valley Medical Foundation, and Prairie Girl Candle Company. Thanks a bunch for tuning in. We will catch you later.